Yeah, Baruch Hashem, greetings and welcome everyone. I've got some massively positive news and information and technical knowledge that gives you the ability to absolutely master your life and your destiny on an increasingly prosperous level, because we've been researching things and then scientifically, technically experimenting and then evaluating the data and then further researching and gaining more and more wisdom and information specifically about how the beginning of an acquaintance or on the subject of how the beginning of the life cycle of a thing, the life cycles that it begins in, they determine the overall and even eternal quality of that thing. Now, to make this, hold on, it's so windy. In any case, this will have to suffice. You should be able to hear this good enough. So, what's actually, the wind is coming from all directions too. I think it's okay though, it's not that strong. So, okay, basically, based on the fact that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and the Creator geometrized, and all of life is systematically and even eternally perfectly structured with absolute order that's ever expanding geometrically too, to put it very simply. You can even see this with plants. It's like the most physical, basic level explanation of one of the most magnificent principles. Even the geometry of different plant species and the leaves and how this plant grows, produces fruits, seeds, reproduces, this geometry is constantly beautifully expanding, right? That's how life actually is and how it works and how it can and it ultimately is and should be made to be. The process of self-mastery in a nutshell is to live in harmony with the cycles of life, right? Okay, have enough videos about this on the channel by now. Yet, right now, there's an important point that has to be made. What we're going to talk about in this presentation specifically is actually the subject matter of the way that in human interactions and acquaintances, how there is a precise moment that you can initiate, we can determine these things because of self-mastery and free will, and also willingly, intelligently hearkening to wisdom and divine instruction too, and wisdom, right? And just operating wisely. So here's the thing. We're talking specifically about the way that the life cycle periods, the combination of the daily periods of the cycles of life that you are in, well, first of all, even make how and automatically sort of predetermine or provide a certain providential package or formatting for what you even do, and if you make acquaintances or not. And specifically, though, how the life cycle of an acquaintance is actually permanently stamping. There's like a cosmic stamp on. So the moment you meet a person for the first time and you wisely determine to meet them at the most propitious time, right? Ideally, the way that entire life cycle of that acquaintance, right, is permanently basically pitched and set to be a certain way, is defined by the very moment of the beginning of it. So, okay, to make this very simple, at any given point in time, all of us are in about 9 different cycles of life, including eternal life, obviously, because life is now and it's actually eternal just by its very essence and nature, even the nature of natures. Every one of us is in about 9 different cycles of life that are highly relevant to monitor. I'm going to summarize these in a second. In a few seconds. So you have the simple overall period of human life of 144 years. During that, you have a soul personality with basically what you should and what you shouldn't, where you should go, what you should work on, what professions you should choose, what things you should, and what things you should avoid in business and in personal and even private life. Okay, so you've got the simple overall period of human life. That's got equally distributed sets of 7 years from 0 to 144. There's that. Then so that's number 9, right? Then during that, you've got your soul personality. Then you have the annual life cycle period of 365 days that always starts on your birthday and is made up of 7 segments of 52 days approximately, wherein it's particularly good for you to accomplish certain things in personal life, health life, and business life. And it's got 7 segments of 52 days. Okay, then you've got the 3.5 day long lunar unit that constantly alternates between negative and positive, identifiable by the date of the new or the full moon at your immediate place of operation, right? Okay, then you've got the daily periods of the cycles of life, where there are 7 categorized from A to G. There are 7 of them at all. And they're 7 a day. 7 days makes us strong, right? And now there's also the short lunar unit of 3 hours. And this, okay, so you got about, look, I'm just describing them on the surface for a second. Have detailed videos about how they all work. You just have to look through the channel. But at this point, I could go into more detail, but right now what's important to understand is that at any given point in time, any one of us human beings is actually like in a combination of life cycles right now that are operational and that are combining to create a certain state where, as is the general rule, there's always a perfect thing right now that's predestined and provided for to be right now, for us to do, for us not to do, etc. Okay, and so a large part of the quality of life and the destiny and the good destiny of humanity, what happens to us, how we can, positively accomplish the divine will and good things, for ourselves and others and all of creation and all these things, right? A lot of that is immediately based on the quality of our interactions with other human beings. And every interaction with another human being has, as all things do, has a life cycle. Like the human being has a simple overall period of human life of about 144 years. You're looking at that as a current important time frame and spectrum to focus on, right? Now, the acquaintances that we make, people, when you meet a person for the first time, first of all, you can meet the right people at the right times through practicing self-mastery, so that you meet the right people at the right times in the right life cycle periods, so that these acquaintances and the resulting, so actually the life cycles of the acquaintances, and what that translates into is the actual quality of the friendship, relationship, etc., is a good one. That's the ideal. But how to do this? How to do this is like this. So you have to constantly monitor the life cycles that you're in. It's a little bit of bookkeeping and mapping work every day, and it's very, very rewarding. Okay, and so you always know what life cycles you're in. So now, there's a large part of the quality of the acquaintances that we have, like how good the friendships, the business relationships, all these things are with any and every other human being, are actually determined by the combination of the life cycles that we're in when the life cycle of an acquaintance is initially created. So I'm going to paint the ideal picture to start with before I explain the mechanics more of this. So we know that everything in life has a life cycle, a definite point of beginning. Particularly and also specifically, though, that like the first moment you see a person, right? Okay, the first time there's a communication that occurs, even like a verbal hello, where basically, apparently what happens is there's a psychological impression, and there's a cosmic trigger that is pulled at a certain moment through the interaction of your own auric field, or like your own vibrational, your vibes, when they interact with somebody else. Like if you just see somebody, they see you, it's getting close, but if you say hello to somebody, they say hello back to you, or you greet, and they greet, it's like there's a spark being lit in the consciousness, and there's like there's a mutual transaction, or like there's an interference that takes place where the auric field of one person merges with the second auric field, or even numerous other auric fields of other humans. And what happens there is somehow in the fabric of how the universe works, there's a thing that is created right there, and that's the life cycle of the acquaintance. Now, ideally, you would coordinate your acquaintances in double positive F periods, especially your first acquaintances. The first moment you meet a person, the life cycles that you're in at that time, they predestine the quality of that interaction, friendship, relationship, whatever it is that's legitimate, for the rest of time in terms of even this physical existence of up to 144 years. Now, it's actually easy to manage this. You have to be very prudent and self-disciplined and have mastery over yourself and your impulses, your action, like your reactions to outside actions, so as to coordinate the moments, especially the moments of first, like initial verbal communication, or like greeting somebody, even apparently pulls a cosmic trigger to initiate auric field interference between two humans, leading to the creation of a third auric field that then is stamped by the quality, like the cosmic quality of the life cycle periods that you're in right then. The ideal picture is this: a person goes through life, practices, happily, peacefully, legitimately lives and practices self-mastery, and coordinates his or her especially first acquaintances as part of the discipline of self-mastery, coordinates his or her acquaintance making, specifically, importantly, making a massive difference. The moments that you make contact, verbal, like there's interference, energetic, vibrational interference in communication, there are degrees to this. Yet generally the first contact, verbal contact, a handshake, like energetic interference, and also like a physical handshake or a hello, that creates a relationship, a life cycle of that relationship is created at that moment. Now, ideally, the first like inception or creation of a life cycle of an acquaintance, the first time you meet and greet somebody and there's any energetic interference that leads to, right, auric field and energetic information exchange, whether like physical or metaphysical, should happen in double positive F periods, ideally. Now look, when I said double positive, you're thinking, what is that? Okay, what that is that we have two different, there's two different cycles of life out of 9 that make a massive difference in either the positive or the negative, basically, nature and quality of anything in life, any life cycle of anything. It's particularly and specifically the combination of the long 3.5-day lunar unit that alternates between negative and positive. So, for example, right now we're in a negative 3.5-day long lunar unit till tomorrow at till Friday, 7 a.m., a little before 7 a.m. So right now we're in a negative 3.5-day long lunar unit, okay? Then, because there's a 12-hour tide cycle, and even more than, not only at the ocean where there's a tide chart, but wherever you are on Earth, on this Earth plane, there's astronomical tidal potential that can be identified using AI and Google Gemini, for example, based on physical coordinates. And that is showing you what the lunar cycle is, the short one of about 3 hours. Now, a large part of the either basically positive or negative long-term, even long-term quality of anything in life is determined by the combination of the 3.5-day long lunar unit either being negative or positive, and the short lunar unit of 3 hours that is either negative or positive, combining to create a double negative or a neutral or double positive state or time frame of 3 hours. You coordinate your first acquaintances into double positive F periods. It gives it the eternal potential for positive, basically good and positive increase.